Greetings and welcome back to the lab. Quick lab update. I'm still cleaning the lab and I found a kit that I hadn't built. I had bought for a totally different purpose and I never got around to it. So I figured, why not? Let's just do a good old-fashioned kit build. And this one actually is coming from GIKFUN, GIKFUN. It is, I don't know if I can figure out how to open it. There it is. I'll dump out the contents. Is this star. I gotta commend them. Nice case, good instructions, and I believe all the parts. I don't think I've done anything to that. I've been going through and checking a lot of my rechargeable batteries, so I should have a good supply of them for this battery pack, but also it comes with the adapter to connect it to USB. I'll probably go that direction. Let's see if there's anything else on the back of the card. Well, there you go. Gikfun.com. And let's put that aside. Let's open up the instructions and see what it says. This is one of the best type of kits, is when they have everything you need in the instructions and a schematic so you can kind of figure out if something goes haywire on you. Ooh, looks like we got a bunch of transistors in here. 1 through 10. I'm wondering, the parts list. Yes, there is a parts list. We've got, where are the Q's? Somewhere in here. LED triode. T1 to T10, so it's not Q. Oftentimes the designation for a transistor is Q, but in this case they use T for transistor, I guess. Triode 9013, I'm not sure exactly what that is, if it's a regular BJT general purpose transistor, or if it's an actual like MOSFET to be able to switch on a series of LEDs. So we're going to go ahead and just try and figure this out. The original idea I had with this, you can kind of see the idea is supposed to be that you're going to have this star shape, and they're saying to alternate the yellow and red. And my thought was I'll throw some orange in there and make it look, I was going to just have some fun with it because my camera kept shutting down. My cell phone is what I was using last year, I think, when I bought this, and I'm actually still using a cell phone. It's a different cell phone. It still overheats. If I'm outside doing the gardening stuff, which is my main channel, sometimes that happens. But my thought was it would be kind of funny to have something that looked like flames just emanating out. So it was kind of like if you look at old-fashioned movies where the projector bulb has overheated the film and it starts to burn up. I was kind of thinking something like that. Anytime that happened, I could have a funny little thing. If you want to see that, I could probably get this kit again and do it. Let me know in the comments, and we'll see what we can do about that. But I just want to clear this out of the way. It's been sitting in one particular position for, I think, over a year now, so I want to get to it. So what is it saying to do first here? We need an iron. I've got it. It's warming up. We need solder wire, a multimeter, tweezers, and wire cutters. Well, let's get all our tools ready to go. Here's the wire cutters. I'm also trying to organize to the point where I can grab my tools relatively quickly. Multimeter. I've now got that mounted on the wall so I can get it, although it's fighting me coming off. So there's a multimeter. I'm not sure if we're going to need that. I'm guessing that's only if you need to do some troubleshooting. But we'll see what it comes up with. So that should be it. So install resistor 200 ohm. Oh, sorry. I probably have you out of frame here. Let me see if I can't make this a little bit neater. Take some of the folds out of it. Apologies if this is making a bunch of noises. If you're wearing headphones, I don't generally plan for headphones. Install resistor 200 ohm, 1K, 10K resistor. Install on R1 through 21 pads. Are they labeled? Yes, they are. But I'm going to need to move one of my lights down because it's got the magnifying glass. Whoops. So I can actually see There it is. It's very... I wonder, I'm going to try and get that down there so you can see it a little bit closer. I'm trying to do it this way, otherwise I have to zoom in. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to do it. So I will zoom in post, give you a quick view of what it looks like. That should probably be enough to give you the idea. So I'm going to try and pull out all of the resistors from here and move that up. Oops, hit the microphone. Sorry about that, folks. Let's get this. It looked like a cheap bag, but it's not the cheap bag, maybe. I don't, the ones with the red stripes tend to really be hard for me to open. I've got um, issues with fine motor skills. It has in part to do with the neck surgery that I had recently. It should come back, if I understand correctly, so I'm not too terribly worried, but some of these things may not go quite to plan. Let's separate out some of these. We'll get that yellow LED out of there. Oh, stuck on one of the resistors. Okay. So we've got some resistors here to work with. Got a whole bunch of other components, but they're only talking about the resistors. And they mention on the instructions here, install resistor 200, 1K, 10K. Huh. Well, let's see. What are these supposed to be? They don't say. But if I look at them up close, 1, 0, 0, and a 0. That's a 100. Where's the other one? Right here. Looks like 1. Interesting. 1, 0, 0, 1. Okay, 100 and one more 0 is 1000. That's the 1K. There's got to be a 10K in here somewhere. So I'm not going to worry about that just yet. Let's find the 100s. Make sure I got that right. 100 and 0 extra zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it says here R3 to 11 and 20. Or, oh, sorry, that's not the one. Where's my 100? Once again, I need a magnifying glass. Okay, I can see the 200s on the board. That's, you know what? I'm going to do this Big Clive style. And pull out the scissors. So I'm not fumbling with everything. I'll cut off the bands from the bandolier. All but 1, 2. All right. Maybe I'll do all of this in time lapse. Install. That out of the way. Move these all into one location, I hope. I had 9 and still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 in my hand. There's number 9. Fold my leads. Let's start up here. There's a 200. Solder. That could be better. Trim. and repeat. So I will repeat 8 more times on the 200s and meet you on the other side.
Under the moon, soft beating tonight, we gather close, hearts burning right. We're firing our souls and sparks in our hands. The skies are candles, we're making plans. Cold the trails in twilight glow, where magic starts and dreams let go. Feeling the night sky blaze so bright, we're setting the match and taking flight. Colors burst like nothing night. Oh, it's side to side. We're making fireworks, light up the sky. Hearts are racing, so it's hot. We're making fireworks, feeling alive, burning bright in the night. With electric guitars and rhythm in the air, we let the sound ignite without care. Amplify dreams in a fiery display. In the center of the stage, we'll walk away.
I think they tried to print the negative in there. Oh, okay. If you look carefully at the symbol, you will see that there is a flat side. Let me pull this out of the way and zoom in post so you can see. If you look at all of these LEDs in this X, they all have a flat side. That flat side would be the negative side. So when you look at the LED, you're looking for the short lead, or more appropriately on the very top, although these are only 3mm LEDs, you're looking for a flat side on the shoulder of this LED. So I'm going to go with the negative, with the short lead, meaning negative, because it's just easier with my bad eyes. And then I'm going to try and line it up with the flat side. There's positive, there's negative, and this is going to get very repetitive. Well, let's put this one on. To put on one of these LEDs, what I do is I will solder one side first, but not both. Let's get one on there. And then with that one soldered on, I will go back around the other side, put my finger on it, and make sure I'll heat that joint up again, make sure it's sitting flat. It is so easy to get these cockeyed. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's not the worst thing in the world. But once I've got that, I can put another one. The whole board is moving because they suggested I go to the middle one first. I should have known better. So what I would suggest to you is look at the diagram, see how they've got it laid out. They've got it sort of laid out here, but I'm going to go ahead and just look at this one in the middle here. You can see it's going to be red in the middle, it's going to be yellow on the edges. If I get all of the yellows on the edges, then when this sits down, it should sit down reasonably flat. So that's my strategy for putting all of these in. And once again, it's going to be boring watching me do however many there are here. I'm guessing if there's 10 LEDs in each string, then that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 60 LEDs that I need to put in. So I'm going to go ahead and take care of that, and I will see you on the other side. So we've got all the LEDs in. Only had a few little problems along the way, but there we go. That's what that looks like. Let's see what the next step says. All LEDs, and then step 5, install adjustable resistance cap, electrolytic capacitor, and DC power socket. Okay, basically all the components except the chips. Yep. And then we'll be able to power it up and see how well it works. One thing is, I must have opened this up and looked at it before, because the I don't think it's their fault. The variable resistor is missing, but I think I do have one in stock that should work. And the good thing is, in terms of the resistors, where is it? It mentions it in here somewhere. Yeah, R22, the potentiometer is a 10K potentiometer. I'm pretty sure I have something that'll fit that profile. I'm not 100%, but we'll give it a shot. Now, I want to start with the transistors here, which actually may be MOSFETs. Does it actually mention? No, that's right. It calls them triodes. Now, with these, the fun part is there's a flat side, which has writing on it, and then there's the round side. And on the circuit board, you can see they actually tell you where the flat side's supposed to go. The only other thing is I would separate these out a little bit. I could try and form the leads completely, but that just gets to be a lot of time. So if I separate them out enough, and then what I'm going to do is, yeah, I'm going to pull the middle one back a little. Fingernails do help. So now I've got it. Oh, maybe a little more. Let's see if we can't get this one in place and soldered in. I also might have some solder blocking the holes because when you put this many components on, it's real easy, especially if they're closely spaced, to actually do that. To while you're soldering, it just yeah. I need the magnifying glass again. It's not just the old man glasses anymore. So make it easier for me to see what I'm doing. Now I think all of these are going to be the same model transistor in this particular case. It's something you want to watch because transistors do have different characteristics, triodes, if you will. Well, no, not triode doesn't mean characteristic. Triode means it has three legs, and it is kind of based on a diode, kind of. I'm simplifying that. There we go. I got it going in. Don't want to put too much stress on the legs, but that should be good enough. Oh, I need to double check that it's actually the right one. So that's a 9013, and that's what it says on here it's supposed to be. It didn't mean to rhyme. Let's get that one soldered on. Probably clean the iron first. Come on. I don't know what's going on. I turned up the heat on the iron. Maybe the tip's getting loose, so I'll have to check that. You turn it up a little bit. I do have an adjustable soldering iron. This all can be done with like a 30-watt iron, I'm sure, but it gets a little bit easier when you have some adjustability. You don't want to make it too hot. Irony of ironies. I said I was going to do this differently. I was going to have it look kind of like a, flame coming out, like the film thing that I mentioned before. And as it turns out, my phone overheated while I was working on this. So I've got 9 of the 10 transistors in. I can't find the 10th right now, but I also I've got spare LEDs in case you're wondering. These I'm going to put away. I'm going to file them away so I can use them for another project because I've got all the LEDs. As far as chips, I've got one of 2. That's the big one here. The next one's going to go here. And I need to find myself a replacement for the resistor. And I think there might be one more component. It's interesting. There's a connection here. I'm not sure what the deal is with that one. I know I've got the capacitors to put in. What happened to the capacitors? Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I might be able to solve my own problem here. I'd put some of this away. There we go. That's one capacitor. And and one transistor. So I've got the transistor. That solves that problem. The capacitor should probably go. Where did I see that? I see C3 here, but that implies there's a 1 and a 2. The transistor is going to go right in here. Okay. I was about to kind of give up, but you know what? I'm going to get those components in. I'm going to get, well, I've got a few more things that I got to figure out. So you know what? I'm going to go away for a bit. I'll come back when I've got all the parts I need, and we'll pick up again. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back, and I think I've sourced all the stuff. I just wanted to show you real quick. I've got these, I call them non-breakable, although I did manage to break them. There are these pin headers, and this particular style is this one here, which has that shaped hole. I don't know how well that's going to come out. Then there's the milled pin headers, which have that sort of shape. Now, optimally, I'd like to use the milled pin headers, but the problem is that some chips don't like to go in there. So I'm going to put the extra pieces aside here, and we'll use a couple of 4-pin that as what all this debris is here, is I had to take the larger one and break it down and then try and very carefully snip I use my side cutters to try and very carefully snip off the debris. Every time you break one of these off, you're going to lose a pin. And this is, where did they go? Yeah, there they are. So right here, I'll zoom in. That'll be easier. Is this sort of pitchfork shape. And that is one of those pins. And so when you're putting in a chip into a socket, what you're really trying to do is get it into there. Now, there are different styled sockets, but when I went through my inventory, I did not have an 8-pin for the 555 timer. So I'm going to put all this off to the side and maybe move some of this just so it doesn't get in the way. But I've got one more triode to put in, and then I found all the other parts I'm going to need. In fact, I have an extra one here. So as it turns out, I'll just dump all these out here. The LEDs I have not put away yet, so I'll put a couple of them in here. That'll make it simpler. And we'll get to doing the rest of this. So I found the remaining triode. Let's try and get that one set up and mounted. Remember what I was saying about blocked holes and bad eyesight? That's what I've got. At first, I didn't think there was a blocked hole here, but then I discovered there is. So my solution is to take one of my cutoffs, a pair of pliers, get it lined up there, use the soldering iron to heat it up, and poke through. Usually works. If I can get it lined up properly. Now, yeah, you could try to use solder wick or other solutions, a solder sucker. I have a solder sucker. I have the solder wick. But for whatever reason, with this particular kit, those have not been working for me. So now that I've poked it through and try and grab it from the other side, whoops. Yeah, my pliers are a little bit magnetic. Okay. So now I've got it grabbed. Didn't come all the way through. Don't really expect it to. What I want to do is I want to get this grabbed from here. There was actually a little bit of solder on the other end of this. But if I can get it warmed up enough to pull it through, well, I either just left behind a bunch more solder or I cleared the hole. Okay, well, There's solder there. It's going to be hard to show. At one point I needed these magnetized, and I did that, and now I can't undo it. That should be cleared now. And I should be able to put this in. So let's try that again. I'll be back once I get it in with my fumbly fingers, which keep in mind, I don't have good motor control yet. So I'm going to do this and I will come back. All right, that's got that one finally. And hopefully this is the last one I have difficulty with. And does it say foreshadowing up here? What's the advantage of doing this and then editing it? I know what final turnout is as I'm editing, but I don't know right now. Now, earlier, I cleaned off a lot of the flux that comes. The flux is built into the solder, and it is corrosive, but not that corrosive. But I want to try and make this a reasonably neat project. So the key to that is, and I'm not advertising a brand, but high percentage isopropyl alcohol. A lot of people say 99.9 or whatever. I've been fine with a 91% for most of it, and a 99 is a little harder to find. This one you can pick up at your local drugstore, big box, department store, whatever, wherever they've got like a pharmacy. So I'm going to try and do this with just... Yeah, that's not working too well. Let's just pour it directly on there. Careful if you have a very full container. Whoop, well, that was a bit more than I was planning on. So, but alcohol will clean the flux. The other way to do it is with, what do they call it? What's the generic version? Is cotton swabs, Q-tips, if you will. Yeah, I can come back at this later. I don't want to turn this into a big thing. I will come back later and clean it up. And of course, I'm doing this with a Kleenex, so it's shredding. Let's just get rid of that. But it gives you an idea how you can kind of clean it up if you want to really neaten up. The cotton swabs tend to work a little bit better, but generic cotton swabs will also kind of rip apart and leave behind some bits. So we got that one on. Now, let's go back to the directions, which I had put away because I was searching for everything and I didn't want to lose them. So let's see what it's saying for the next step. We got resistance, cap, electric, all LEDs. Oh, I was supposed to do the adjustable resistor, the capacitors. When does it actually... Oh, wow. Seriously? Then after that, they tell you to put on the triodes. Well, I'm going to get all the rest of these on. Then there's the integrated circuits. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is finish up all of these now that I've gotten it out of order. I'll just go ahead and finish putting on all the remaining parts in time lapse and get the sockets set up, and then we'll put in the integrated circuits, the ICs, the chips. We'll put those in, and then we will test it. So let's launch into some time lapse and a bit of music, and we'll see how difficult this is. I just wanted to stop real quick and mention that the electrolytic capacitors, these cylindrical capacitors, are actually polarized. You got to make sure you put them in the right way. In this particular case, the negative is the band. Well, all electrolytic capacitors should have a band where the negative side is. And when I put that in, I noticed that, where's the other one? Where's the other one? There's another electrolytic capacitor on here. And yeah, there it is. Right down here. That electrolytic capacitor, you can see there's a plus sign on it. That tells you what direction you need to put it in. So back to it and back to the music. Okay, this last capacitor that looks like this is not polarized. And it actually says on the parts list, this is 104 picofarad. That's not right. I know the 555 timer, and it should actually be marked 104, but that's not picofarads. That's 10 and 4 zeros, much like with resistors. It's just how they code the particular capacitors. And I had to find a replacement. So the legs aren't close enough together. That's an easy fix. But hopefully your kit will have one that'll fit right in here. And it doesn't matter what direction you put it around. That's what I was trying to say with the non-polarized. So anyway, back to it.
We're making fireworks, and now they got the new electric brake sings cutting through the blue. Under the stars, my legends are born. The rebels of the night, the more follow. We're making fireworks, lighting the sky. Hearts are racing, soaring high. We're making fireworks, feeling alive, burning bright in the night.
Now I'm onto the sockets, and I had to go find the sockets in my own supply. Turns out the first pin for this particular chip is down here. You can see this little bit of a dimple, a little bit of a cutout in the end of it. That or a dot next to one of the pins. And this actually shows both on the circuit board, so kudos to them for that. That tells you where the first pin is. Now, I'm going to try and stick this thing in. And if you didn't catch it on the power connector, I'm going to use a piece of tape. Doesn't have to be electrical tape. That's what I happen to have here. I just use it for a lot of things. And I'm going to use that to hold it while I flip it over. Then when I go after soldering, I don't want to put too much heat into one side of it because it's basically plastic with a little bit of metal for the pins. So what I'll do is I'll get the corners first. And then make sure that it's actually sitting right. Really only need to do one corner, but I like to do two. Just gets me that much closer. All right, so that's got that. Now that seems to be sitting right. So it's just a matter of soldering the other 14 pins, and we'll come back and look at the 8 pin. And that takes us to the 4 pin, or the 8 pin, which is going to be 2 4-pin sockets because I don't have a proper socket. And the reason I'm socketing them is because what I found for, let's see if I can make that work, for 555 timers in my stock, I don't know if they're all good. So I wanted to be able to socket it. I can put one in, try it out. If it doesn't work, then I have to diagnose. Actually, the difficulty there is if it's not the chip that's causing the problem, it could be something else. I have to do some diagnosis. If I'm lucky, it'll all just work on the first attempt. So I'm going to lay these down like that and hope that I got them reasonably close. Not expecting perfection here, but I can get them soldered on, and then if I have to, I can move them around a little bit. But if you don't have a socket, you can use the pin headers, and that's what I'm attempting to do. All right, I guess it's about time to start putting things together. I'm going to drop in the main chip, which has its little dimple on this end, and that should line up with the dimple on the socket, which lines up with the dimple on the board. And I'm looking at it, and I can see I got one slightly bent pin. Now, one of the solutions to this, because they usually tend to be splayed out a little bit more, is to roll it a little bit. Not too much. You don't want to bend all the pins. But hopefully that will take care of that. Let me get this turned so I can see a little bit better. And try and get this chip in now. That looks like it wants to go in. You don't want to force it too quickly because you can bend the pins in a way that you didn't want to. So I'm going to try that now. I'm going to have to feed these pins in a little bit. That was a battle, but we got that one in. Now I have several of these, which are the 555 timers. I believe. Oh, the notch goes the other way. I'm going to try sticking this one in and see if it works. These are not perfectly aligned, but oh wow. That was too easy. That just went right in for me. Well, that means we are now in a position where we can plug it in and see if it works. Now I got to find the power connector. And no sooner did I say that than I realized it was right here. So let's get the twist tie off of this thing. We've got a power bank nearby. I'm not exactly expecting it to work on the first try. There always seems to be something goes wrong, but there's power bank. So now we got 5 volts. We're going to plug in here and okay, we got a ring. And it may be the setting on the potentiometer. Yeah, it's just going really slow. That or there's something else that's setting the clock. So let's turn this. Something affecting the clock. I'm not sure which one's supposed to be faster, which one's supposed to be slower, which direction. I remember right from some of the other stuff I've done, this should be faster. But I certainly expected it to go faster than this. Okay, so we've got yellow. Come on, red. Oh, we still got yellow. I think it's not advancing, that's what's happening. Which would imply a problem with this chip. Plus, it seems like the voltage is awfully low. I wonder if it's the power bank itself. Let's get a different power bank and try this out. That should have plenty of power. That's a 10 amp hour power bank. I did a video on this one. I'll put a link in the description. All right, it doesn't seem to be doing much, so let's do this. This is why I said the clock chips may not be so good. Basically, that's a clock chip and that's a counter. And if the counter is malfunctioning, which could be the chip or it could be something around it, what it's supposed to do is basically count. So it should start in the middle and work its way out, and then go back to the middle and work its way out on all 6 branches here. Let's see, putting a different clock chip in. Oops, I don't know if I have another. Okay. That went in too easy because it went in wrong. So there's another one. We'll plug it back in. Yeah, we ended up in the middle. I'm going to give it a moment and see if it advances, because that would be an indication that the clock chip is doing something. Oh, it went off. Do I have one of these backwards? That's the other possibility. Is their diagram backwards? We could blow up the chip flipping it around like that, but interesting. All right. Well, I'm going to do some diagnosis, then I'll come back. All right, folks, I'm back, and I've obviously figured it out. It is working now. Turns out what the problem was the socket here for the timer chip. And it turns out the timer chip is turned around the right way. It wasn't that it was backwards, it was just simply that it wasn't plugging into the socket correctly. So I had to carefully remove the socket, clean everything up, and then put a new socket in the form of a couple of those pin headers that I was talking about, but the lower profile ones. So that's what took care of it. Then I was excited. I went to go plug it in up here, and I broke the jack. I think it was kind of a cheap jack. So I might be able to find a better one, but I also realized what this connection down here was for your positive and negative, basically the power going in. Same thing as this was up here. So I have a JST connector here. I use a lot of these for different things. And since I don't know if I'm going to repurpose this at some point or if it's just going to end up in a box full of projects, but I'm happy that it's working. And I wanted to demonstrate, actually, there's the variable resistor here. And if I turn it, you would think if you turn it up, then it would go faster. But if I turn it to the right, it actually slows down. And if I turn it to the left, it picks up speed. Now, if I wanted to have more speed, I'm trying to think, more speed or slower speed, one or the other, I can put a bigger variable resistor in there, and it should give me more range. If I put a smaller one in there, it's going to kind of start at the bottom of the range, and I'm not sure how this is wired up. It's wired up to, it's kind of like when you have a variable resistor, you've got 3 connections. You have a center connection, and then you have a connection to the left. And when you turn it, what you're doing is moving towards the left. If you turn to the left, you're moving towards the left. You're reducing that particular resistance. If you go the other direction from the middle to the right, you're reducing that resistance. And the question is, when you reduce the resistance, how is it wired in? Is it wired in using these two, or is it wired in using these two? So I'm not sure how that's wired in. I'll have to take a look at that. But this has kind of inspired me for another project, and I've got too many projects already. So what I'm starting to do is put on my forum future projects, and just to keep track of all the ideas I've had. So I've already got one up there, and this is going to be another one I'll post up there with a little bit more information and some of this explanation I'm giving you right now. My thinking is if I had something like this, I could turn this circuit by rearranging the LEDs. I could turn it into a firework. Some people that saw this said they thought it looked like a firework, which I kind of agree. It's actually more of an explosion than a firework. But a firework generally goes up and then comes back down most of the way before it, or maybe halfway before it extinguishes. So you've got all these trails of light coming up. And if I could do that, if I could have trails of light coming up, trails of light going that way, I don't know, something like that. So to build a kind of firework simulation, and I might be able to make it part of the holiday lights project. So I don't know if it's going to be a separate project or just fold it into that, but I'm going to post that up on the forum. I'll put the link to the forum down below. And I appreciate you watching me go through the struggle that I went through. If you like this, let me know. I'd like, I can make more of these videos. I can go out and buy other kits. If you'd like to see it with a different color, let me know. We can try various different things from here. So thank you so much for watching. Take care of yourself. Take care of the ones around you, and we'll see you on the next one.